The basement door slammed behind me with such force that dust particles danced in the thin beam of light streaming through the keyhole. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stumbled down 3 steps before catching myself on the cold railing. "Have fun with the spiders, Sienna." Madison's voice dripped with venom from the other side. The lock clicked into place, and her footsteps faded away upstairs, each one echoing like a nail in my coffin. "I'm Sienna, and this is how my 16-year-old stepdaughter decided to welcome me home after my first business trip as a married woman." "Madison, this isn't funny." I pounded on the door, my fist connecting with solid wood. The impact sent shockwaves up my arm, but the pain barely registered through my rising panic. "Let me out right now, Stepdaughter." Silence answered. Well, not complete silence. Something scuttled in the darkness behind me, and my skin crawled. I fumbled for my phone, cursing when I remembered it was still in my purse, upstairs in the kitchen, where I'd dropped it before Madison asked me to check something in the basement. The darkness pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. I'd avoided this basement since moving in 6 months ago. Daniel had laughed at my unease, calling it cute how I'd send him down to fetch things from the storage room. If he only knew how his precious daughter would use my fear against me. "Help!" I screamed, knowing it was useless. Daniel wouldn't be home from work for hours, and our nearest neighbors were too far to hear. My hand brushed against something in my jacket pocket, the small flashlight I'd started carrying after that power outage last month. With trembling fingers, I clicked it on, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. Boxes, shelves, old furniture draped in sheets, normal basement stuff that somehow looked sinister in the harsh light. A mirror in the corner caught my reflection. Wide eyes, pale face, disheveled dark hair. I barely recognized myself. "Think, Sienna, think," I muttered, forcing myself to take deep breaths. The basement had to have another way out. The previous owners mentioned something about a crash upstairs made me jump. Madison's voice drifted down, speaking to someone. My blood ran cold when I recognized Rachel's voice, my best friend who was supposed to come over for coffee. "Sienna, she left about an hour ago," Madison said, her voice perfectly concerned. "Said something about running errands. I can tell her you stopped by when she gets back." That little snake. I could picture her now, all innocent smiles and worried eyes, playing the part of the perfect stepdaughter while I was trapped down here like some dirty secret. "Oh, that's weird," Rachel replied. "She texted me to come over. Maybe she got delayed. You know how she is, always running late." The conversation continued, but their voices grew fainter. No, no, no. Rachel couldn't leave. She was my only chance. I opened my mouth to scream again, but stopped. Madison would only turn it against me somehow. She'd been doing that for months, twisting every situation, making me look unstable, paranoid. Even Daniel had started giving me those concerned looks, suggesting maybe I was too stressed at work. My flashlight beam caught something else. A small window near the ceiling, mostly blocked by an old bookshelf. If I could climb up, but as I moved closer, I noticed the window had been painted shut recently. The paint was still tacky in spots. This wasn't an impulsive act. Madison had planned this. I sank down onto a dusty box, my mind racing. All those little incidents over the past months, my missing car keys, the accidentally deleted work presentations, the rumors at Daniel's office party, they weren't random acts of teenage rebellion. This was calculated, methodical. The flashlight flickered, and something inside me hardened. Fine. If Madison wanted to play games, I could play too. But unlike her, I had years of experience in the corporate world, where destroying someone required precision, patience, and most importantly, plausible deniability. I heard the front door close upstairs. Rachel was gone. I was alone in the dark with my thoughts and a growing sense of purpose. Game on, Madison. Game on. Daniel found me 3 hours later, huddled in a corner of the basement, my flashlight dead. His face twisted with concern as he helped me up the stairs. But it wasn't me he rushed to check on first. "Madison, sweetheart." His footsteps thundered up to the second floor, while I stood in the kitchen, still shaking, still tasting dust in my mouth. "I'm fine, Dad," Madison called down, her voice honey-sweet. "Just finishing my homework." I gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles went white. The lies came so easily to her, wrapped in teenage innocence and practiced charm. When Daniel returned, he wrapped his arms around me, but his eyes were distant, already processing how to minimize this latest misunderstanding. "The door must have stuck again," he said, rubbing my shoulders. "I'll have someone look at it this weekend." "The door didn't stick," I said, stepping away from his embrace. "Madison locked me in there, on purpose." His sigh felt like a knife between my ribs. "Sienna, honey, I know things have been challenging, but Madison wouldn't do that." Shadow, our black cat, wound between my legs, purring. "At least someone in this house was on my side. Have you even asked her? She's been in her room all afternoon, studying for her chemistry test." He loosened his tie. A gesture I'd learned meant he was done discussing the topic. "Maybe you should lie down. You look pale." The doorbell rang before I could respond. Through the front window, I spotted Rachel's car. She must have come back, worried when I didn't answer her texts. Madison appeared at the top of the stairs, as if summoned. "I'll get it." "No," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "I'll get it." But Madison was already halfway down, shooting me a look that said she knew exactly what would happen if I tried to tell Rachel the truth. She'd twist it, like she always did, make me sound paranoid, unstable, the crazy stepmother trying to come between a father and his daughter. Rachel's smile faltered when she saw my face. "Sienna, are you okay? I stopped by earlier, but..." "She was running errands," Madison cut in smoothly. "Right, Sienna?" I felt Daniel's presence behind me, waiting to see how I'd handle this. One wrong move, and I'd be the villain in tonight's dinner conversation. Again. "Right," I forced myself to say. "Sorry about that, Rachel. I should have texted." Rachel's nurse's instincts kicked in. I could see it in the way her eyes narrowed, assessing me. "Well, I brought that book you wanted to borrow. Mind if I come in for a minute?" "Actually," Madison piped up, "we were just about to have a family dinner. Dad promised to help me with my chemistry homework after." Daniel's hand squeezed my shoulder. "Rain check, Rachel." I watched my best friend leave, taking with her my chance to expose Madison's true nature. Through the window, I saw our neighbor Ethan walking his dog, pausing to wave at Rachel's retreating car. He glanced up at our house, and for a moment, our eyes met. Something in his expression suggested he'd witnessed more than he let on. "I'm starving," Madison announced, heading for the kitchen. "Sienna, didn't you say you were going to make that pasta thing tonight?" My hands clenched into fists. The pasta thing, the recipe she'd specifically requested this morning, knowing exactly how her afternoon plans would unfold. "I need to check something for work," I said, heading for the stairs. "You two go ahead." In our bedroom, I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document, started typing. Every incident, every misunderstanding, every manipulative moment since I'd married Daniel 6 months ago. Times, dates, witnesses, the paint on the basement window, Rachel's visit, Ethan's knowing look. Madison wanted to play chess, fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about me. Before I met Daniel, I'd spent 15 years in corporate marketing, where documenting everything wasn't paranoia, it was survival. "Sienna," Daniel called up. "You coming down?" I saved the document and named it Insurance. "Be right there," I called back, a plan already forming in my mind. Madison might have Daniel wrapped around her finger, but she'd made a critical mistake today. She'd shown her hand too soon. And I'd learned long ago that the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. It's served with a smile and impeccable documentation. The email from my boss arrived during dinner. Another presentation corrupted, another deadline missed. My hands trembled as I read it on my phone under the table. Madison's voice chattering about her day, providing perfect cover. And then Jessica said the funniest thing about Sienna's outfit at the school fundraiser last week. My head snapped up. What fundraiser? The conversation screeched to a halt. Daniel's fork paused halfway to his mouth. The one you promised to help organize, Madison said, eyes wide with practiced innocence. Everyone was asking where you were. I had to tell them you forgot. I never promised. I stopped remembering the deleted calendar entries I discovered last week, the missing emails, the convenient, technical glitches that seemed to follow me lately. It was pretty embarrassing, Madison continued, picking at her salad. Mrs. Peterson said maybe you were still adjusting to family life. Daniel cleared his throat. Madison, that's enough. But it wasn't enough, not anymore. Show me your phone, he said, spisket. Madison clutched her phone closer. Show me your phone right now. Dad, she turned to Daniel, tears already welling up. She's being crazy again. Sienna, Daniel's voice carried that warning tone I'd grown to hate. Let's not. A notification pinged on my laptop upstairs. Another email. Probably another crisis. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against hardwood. I need some air. Outside, the evening air felt thick with unspoken accusations. I walked to the end of our driveway, then kept walking, my heels clicking against pavement like a metronome, counting down to disaster. Rough night, I startled. Ethan stood in his front yard, garden hose in hand, though his flowers looked thoroughly watered. Just family dinner theater, I said, aiming for lightness and missing by miles. Interesting performance the other day, he said, eyes sharp, despite his casual tone. When Madison told your friend you weren't home, my breath caught. You saw that. I see a lot from my office window. He coiled the hose slowly, like how your stepdaughter seems to have a habit of going through your car when you're not around. The missing presentation files, the corrupted emails, the calendar chaos. Why are you telling me this? Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Let's just say I recognized the signs. My ex-wife's daughter had similar hobbies. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Daniel, come home, we need to talk. Careful, Ethan called as I turned to leave. Teenagers like Madison? They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Back home, Daniel waited in his study. Madison's crying echoed from upstairs, a performance worthy of Broadway. This has to stop, he said, rubbing his temples. These accusations, this paranoia. Check her phone, I interrupted. Just check her phone, Daniel. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. She's 16. She deserves privacy. And I deserve not to have my career sabotaged. Shadow leaped onto the desk between us, tail twitching. In the silence that followed, Madison's sobs grew louder, more theatrical. I think, Daniel said carefully, maybe you should stay with Rachel for a few days. Clear your head. Something snapped inside me. You want me to leave? Just temporarily, until things calm down. I laughed, a harsh sound that made Shadow's ears flatten. Things won't calm down, Daniel. They'll get worse, because that's exactly what she wants. His face hardened. That's enough. No, it's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. I moved toward the door, then stopped. But it will be. Upstairs, Madison's crying ceased abruptly. In that moment of silence, I made my decision. Ethan was right. This was chess, not checkers, and I'd just spotted my opponent's weakness. I'll pack a bag, I said, watching Daniel's shoulders sag with relief. But first, I need to send a work email. He nodded, already reaching for his phone to comfort his daughter. In our bedroom, I opened my laptop and created a new email address. Then I started typing. Dear Mrs. Peterson, I recently learned about the fundraiser incident and wanted to clarify something. Madison wanted to play, fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about chess. Sometimes the queen has to leave the board to win the game. Rachel's guest room felt like exile, but it gave me space to think. 3 days had passed since Daniel suggested I clear my head, and my phone remained silent except for work emails, each one a fresh disaster I couldn't quite prove was Madison's doing. You need to eat something, Rachel said, setting down a plate beside my laptop. The smell of toast turned my stomach. I found something, I said instead, turning the screen toward her. Look at these timestamps. Rachel leaned in, squinting at the email logs. Every corrupted file, every missed meeting. They all happened when Madison was supposedly at debate team practice, which means there is no debate team this semester. I checked with the school. The doorbell interrupted Rachel's response. Through the window, I spotted Ethan on the porch, holding what looked like a manila envelope. "I have something you need to see," he said when Rachel let him in. His usual casual demeanor was gone, replaced by something harder. "But first, you need to tell me exactly what happened the day your predecessor left the company." My throat went dry. "What?" He pulled out several printed pages. "Because according to these, Sarah Jenkins didn't just quit. She had a complete breakdown after her stepdaughter accused her of harassment." The toast in my stomach turned to lead. "How did you cum?" "I do background checks for a living," Ethan said. "And Madison's mother didn't just leave town for a fresh start, like Daniel claims. She fled after similar accusations from another teenager at her workplace." Rachel's hand on mine, squeezing tight. "Sienna, what aren't you telling us?" My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Madison's crying again. When are you coming home?" "It's a pattern," Ethan continued, laying out more papers. "3 women before you, all stepmothers, all professionally discredited, all gone within a year." "But why would Daniel?" Rachel started. "Because he gets to play the hero," I whispered, pieces clicking into place. The devoted father protecting his daughter, the understanding husband supporting his unstable wife. My phone buzzed again. "Madison this time. I miss you, maybe I overreacted. The perfect trap. Return home and face more sabotage, or stay away and prove I'm abandoning my family." "There's more," Ethan said quietly. "Your company's HR department received an anonymous complaint yesterday about inappropriate behavior toward a minor." The room spun. Rachel cursed, but I barely heard her. All I could see was Madison's innocent smile, her perfectly crafted tears, her father's concerned frown as he suggested I take some time away. My phone lit up with another text from Daniel. "We should talk. Come home tonight?" "Don't," Rachel said, reading my expression. "Sienna, whatever you're thinking." But I was already grabbing my coat. "I need to get something from the house, just one thing." "It's a trap," Ethan warned. "Once those accusations hit—" "I know," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But my laptop's still there, with everything I've documented, everything I've backed up, including emails I'd never sent. Insurance, I'd called it. Now it looked more like survival." "I'll go with you," Rachel offered. "No." I checked my phone one last time. Daniel's last message glowed. "Madison's making your favorite dinner." "I need to do this alone," I said, thinking of the basement, of locked doors and painted windows, of a teenager who'd learned too well how to destroy lives while keeping her hands clean. But Madison had made one crucial mistake. She thought she was playing against another Sarah Jenkins, another woman who'd break and run when the accusations flew. She didn't realize she was playing against someone who'd spent 15 years documenting everything, who knew exactly how to make evidence disappear or appear. "If I'm not back in an hour," I told Ethan, "send everything you found to these email addresses." I scribbled down 3 contacts: my lawyer, my boss, and most importantly, Mrs. Peterson from the school board. Rachel grabbed my arm. "What are you going to do?" I thought of my hidden files, of Madison's careful manipulations, of Daniel's practiced concern. "I'm going to teach my stepdaughter a lesson about karma," I said, stepping into the gathering dark. "And this time, I'm not the one who's going to disappear." The house key felt heavy in my hand as I stood on my own doorstep, watching shadows move behind the curtains. "Madison's favorite dinner," Daniel had said, as if pasta could erase weeks of calculated destruction. Shadow wound between my legs as I entered, his purr a warning rather than a welcome. The laptop was upstairs in my office, assuming Madison hadn't already gotten to it. "Sienna?" Daniel's voice from the kitchen. "Is that you?" I kept my footsteps silent on the stairs, counting seconds. 3 minutes to grab the laptop, 2 to transfer the files, 1 to, "I knew you'd try something like this." Madison stood in my office doorway, my laptop open on her lap. Her smile reminded me of a documentary I'd once watched about predators. "That's private property," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "Like Sarah Jenkins' private emails?" She turned the screen toward me. "The ones where she begged Dad not to believe the lies? Or maybe Catherine Mills' resignation letter, the one she wrote right before her nervous breakdown?" Each name hit like a slap. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since Dad first mentioned you." She set the laptop down carefully. "You seemed smarter than the others, though. I actually had to work for this one." Footsteps on the stairs, Daniel coming to complete their performance. "I found something interesting," Madison continued, pulling up a document. "Your little insurance file, the one documenting everything?" Her fingers danced across the keyboard. "It's amazing how easy it is to edit metadata, to make it look like someone's been fabricating evidence for months." The footsteps grew closer. "Why?" I whispered. "What did I ever do to you?" "I did it." "To me?" She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Nothing. That's not the point. It's what you did to Dad. Made him think he needed someone else. Made him forget about Mom. Your mother left because you people always leave." Her mask slipped just for a moment. "But Dad stays. He always stays with me." Daniel appeared in the doorway, his concerned expression so perfectly rehearsed, it made my stomach turn. "Everything okay up here?" he asked, as if he hadn't heard every word. Madison's tears appeared on cue. "I was just trying to apologize, Dad," but she started accusing me again. I looked between them, father and daughter, their routine polished by practice. How many times had they performed this play? How many women had stood where I stood, realizing too late they were never meant to have a permanent role? But I wasn't Sarah Jenkins or Catherine Mills. I pulled out my phone, dialed without looking, put it on speaker. "Ethan Carter Investigations," the voice answered. "This call is being recorded." Madison's tears dried instantly. Daniel stepped forward, but I held up my hand. "Would you mind sharing what you found about the Jenkins case?" I asked, watching their faces. "And the Mills case? And especially about Madison's mother?" "Sienna." Daniel's voice dropped to a warning growl. "Think carefully about what you're doing." "The files are already sent," I said, though my heart hammered. "To my lawyer, my boss, and Mrs. Peterson. Everything, including the basement incident." Madison's mask cracked further. "You're lying." "Check your email, Mr. Taylor," Ethan's voice cut in. "You'll find everything there, including some interesting financial records. Seems paying off previous stepmothers leaves quite a paper trail." The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Madison laughed, not her usual calculated giggle, but something wild and sharp. "It doesn't matter," she said. No one will believe you. They never do." "They might not believe me," I agreed, reaching for my laptop. "But they'll believe the recordings, the ones from every room in this house, including your little confession just now." Daniel lunged for the laptop, but I was faster. Years of corporate politics had taught me one crucial lesson: always have a backup plan. "One more step," I warned, "and everything goes public. Every case, every payoff, every carefully orchestrated breakdown. How many careers have you destroyed, Madison? How many lives?" She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. "Your move," I said softly. "But remember, I'm not playing chess anymore. I'm burning the whole board." The school board meeting room felt like a courtroom, with Mrs. Peterson's disapproving stare serving as judge and jury. My evidence lay scattered across the table: emails, recordings, financial records, but Madison's tearful performance was stealing the show. "I just wanted a mother," she sobbed, Daniel's arm protectively around her shoulders. But she kept trying to turn everyone against me. I watched the board members exchange glances, their sympathy clearly lying with the traumatized teenager rather than the unstable stepmother. Even my recordings worked against me. Madison's confession twisted into the desperate acts of a scared child, protecting herself from an obsessive adult. "Mrs. Taylor," Mrs. Peterson adjusted her glasses. "These accusations are very serious, but what concerns us more is your apparent fixation on documenting a minor's private moments." Private moments. My laugh sounded hollow, even to my own ears. She locked me in a basement. She sabotaged my career. She created a cry for help. Daniel interrupted smoothly. One we clearly missed, caught up in our own concerns about your stability. The trap snapped shut with brutal efficiency. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered now looked like proof of my own obsession. Every recording painted me as the unstable one. Even Ethan's investigation backfired. What kind of person hired a private investigator to spy on their teenage stepdaughter? I have statements, Daniel continued, sliding a folder forward, from Sarah Jenkins and Catherine Mills, about similar patterns of behavior. My blood ran cold. Of course he'd contacted them. Of course they'd back his story. Anything to stay buried, to keep their own broken pieces hidden. That's not, I started. But Madison's next performance cut me off. I should have told someone sooner, she whispered, tears perfectly timed. About the cameras, the stalking, how she'd follow me to school events pretending to be involved. The school board secretary was taking notes, each tap of her keyboard, another nail in my professional coffin. I looked around the room, searching for one sympathetic face, but found only judgment and disgust. My phone buzzed. Rachel, probably wondering why I hadn't answered her warnings about this meeting being a mistake. Beside her name, I spotted an email notification from my boss regarding your immediate termination. Given the severity of these concerns, Mrs. Peterson said, we'll be recommending a full investigation and temporary restraining order. You can't. It's for the best, honey, Daniel said, his concern so convincing I almost believed it myself. We can get you help. Real help this time. Madison buried her face in his shoulder, but not before I caught her smile. The same one she'd worn in the basement, watching me pound on a locked door. I have proof, I insisted, my voice cracked. The basement door, it was painted shut. There are witnesses. You mean Mr. Carter? Daniel pulled out another document. Your private investigator's license was revoked last year. Something about harassment charges from his own stepdaughter situation. The final piece clicked into place. Ethan hadn't been helping me. He'd been setting me up. Another player in Madison's elaborate game. If you'll excuse us, Daniel stood, gathering Madison close. My daughter's been through enough today. I watched them leave, Madison's tears had already dried, her performance complete. Through the window, I spotted Ethan waiting in his car, a silent reminder that I'd never really had allies, only carefully placed props in someone else's story. Mrs. Peterson cleared her throat. Mrs. Taylor, given these developments, we strongly suggest you seek professional help and stay away from Madison. My evidence sat useless on the table, transformed from ammunition into proof of my own unraveling. Every move I'd made, every precaution I'd taken, had been anticipated and turned against me. You don't understand, I whispered, but the room was already emptying, leaving me alone with the ruins of my reputation and career. My phone buzzed again, an email from Daniel's lawyer this time. Divorce papers, probably, the final act in Madison's carefully orchestrated destruction. I'd thought I was burning the chessboard, but I'd never been a player at all. Just another piece to be sacrificed in Madison's game. My moves predicted and countered before I'd even made them. The question wasn't how to win anymore. The question was whether I had anything left to lose. Rachel's spare bedroom had become my war room, walls covered with printouts and photos. 3 weeks since the school board meeting, and I'd finally found what I was looking for. In Daniel's banking records, of all places. My phone buzzed. Madison. Miss you, Sienna. Dad says you can come home if you agree to counseling. I ignored it, focusing on the document in front of me. Regular payments to a private account, starting exactly when Madison's mother disappeared. Not alimony, not child support, something else. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I spotted Daniel's car in the driveway. You shouldn't be here, I said through the crack in the door. Madison's in trouble, he replied, his face drawn. Real trouble, she needs you. I almost laughed. Like Sarah Jenkins needed you, or Catherine Mills, or Madison's mother? His expression shifted, something darker replacing the practiced concern. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I held up my phone. I do. I found her, Daniel. Madison's mother? She's not living her best life in California, like you told everyone. She's in a psychiatric facility in Oregon, under a different name, paid for by you. The mask slipped completely. You had no right. To what? Investigate why 3 women before me had mental breakdowns, why they all claimed Madison was destroying their lives, right before being diagnosed with paranoid delusions. A car door slammed behind him. Madison emerged, her usual perfect composure cracking around the edges. You're supposed to be gone, she spat. They all leave, that's how it works. Madison, Daniel warned, but she was already pushing past him into the house. You ruined everything. She grabbed the nearest paper from my wall, tearing it down. We were happy before you came, before all of them came. Were you? I kept my voice steady. Or were you just better at hiding it then? She whirled on me, tears replaced by something feral. You don't understand. None of you understood. He's mine. Madison, stop. Daniel reached for her, but she shoved him away. You promised, she screamed at him. You promised after Mom that you would just be us. But you kept bringing them home trying to replace her. The pieces clicked into place. Not just a jealous daughter. A traumatized child, enabled by a father too guilty to set boundaries. Each new wife a fresh target for Madison's rage. Each breakdown carefully orchestrated to maintain their dysfunctional dynamic. Your mother's not gone because she abandoned you, I said softly. She's gone because she saw what you were becoming, what your father was letting you become. Madison lunged, but I was ready. The phone in my hand was still recording, still broadcasting live to Rachel's laptop downstairs, to my lawyer's email, to Mrs. Peterson. Tell them, I demanded as Daniel tried to separate us. Tell them how you did it, how you made each of us look crazy, how your father helped cover it up. You don't know anything. But her voice cracked, the perfect performance finally faltering. Meg, I know about the payments, the facility, the NDAs they all signed. I turned to Daniel. How long before Madison turns on you too? When you eventually try to date again, when you can't meet her demands. That's enough, he growled. But Madison was already backing away, her carefully constructed world unraveling. You said no one would find out, she whispered to her father. You promised they'd think Mom just left. Daniel's face went pale. Maddie, honey, I did it for you. Her voice rose hysterically. All of it. The basement, the emails, making them look crazy, just like you said Mom was crazy. So they'd leave us alone. The front door opened. Rachel stood there, her phone displaying the live recording. Behind her, Mrs. Peterson and 2 police officers. Madison's scream of rage would have been theatrical if it hadn't been so real this time. As the officers stepped forward, I saw her mask crack completely, revealing the broken child beneath the manipulator. I'm sorry, I said, though I wasn't sure to whom, the traumatized teenager, the enabler father, or the women before me, who hadn't escaped the basement's shadows. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. But as they led Madison and Daniel away, I realized this was never about winning. It was about breaking the cycle, even if it meant breaking everything else along with it. The basement door creaked as I pushed it open, dust motes dancing in the beam of my flashlight. 6 months of legal battles, therapy sessions, and sleepless nights had led me back here to where it all began. Shadow wound between my legs as I descended the stairs, each step solid now that Daniel had removed the loose boards. Evidence for the investigation, they'd called it. Evidence of a family's slow collapse. You don't have to do this, Rachel said from the top of the stairs. The realtor can handle everything. But I did have to do this. The house would sell tomorrow, and I needed to face these shadows one last time. My flashlight caught the window, still painted shut, though investigators had photographed it extensively. Madison's first confession had opened a flood of revelations. Daniel's careful documentation of each wife's instability, the coordinated gaslighting, the way father and daughter had perfected their routine through years of practice, A newspaper clipping fluttered from between two boxes. Madison's tearful interview about her mother's abandonment. The truth had been harder to swallow. A woman who'd seen the darkness growing in her daughter, who'd tried to get her help, only to be labeled paranoid and dangerous by her own husband. Found something? Rachel called down. Just ghosts, I answered, moving deeper into the basement. My phone buzzed. Another email from Madison's therapist, requesting a meeting. I'd declined the previous 3. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, shouldn't be rebuilt. The last time I'd seen Madison, being led away in handcuffs, she'd looked so young, so broken. But I'd seen the calculation behind her tears, even then. A soft thump made me turn. Shadow had knocked over a box, spilling photos across the floor. I knelt to gather them, freezing when I recognized the faces. Daniel's previous wives, all smiling, all unaware of what awaited them. Each photo carefully dated, documented, like exhibits in a case that would never see trial. Sienna, a new voice from upstairs. You okay down there? Ethan, not the ally I'd thought, but not quite the enemy either. His own stepdaughter had reached out during the investigation, sharing a similar story of manipulation and gaslighting. He'd been trying to warn me, in his way, though his methods had nearly destroyed me. Almost done, I called back, but my hand shook as I picked up the final photo. Madison and Daniel, taken just days before I'd moved in. Their smiles held secrets I hadn't been equipped to read. Something scratched inside the wall. Shadow's ears perked up, his tail puffing. I shifted my flashlight beam, catching a glimpse of movement through a crack in the foundation. The basement had always held secrets, but some were better left buried. I gathered the photos and documents, more evidence for the growing Cass file. Daniel's trial would start next month, though Madison's juvenile hearings had already begun. Their perfect facade had crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. Ready? Rachel asked as I emerged, blinking in the bright light of the kitchen. Almost. I moved through the house one last time, Shadow at my heels. Each room held memories of a life I'd tried to build, of a family that had never really existed. In my office, I retrieved the final item, my laptop, still containing the recordings that had exposed everything. At the front door, I paused. The house felt different now, its shadows less threatening, its secrets laid bare. But as I turned to leave, Shadow suddenly hissed, his gaze fixed on something upstairs. I followed his line of sight to Madison's bedroom window. For a moment, I could have sworn I saw a face, young, tear-streaked, calculating. But it was just a trick of the light, a reflection of what I'd learned about family, about revenge, about the fine line between justice and destruction. Goodbye, Shadow, I whispered, but he'd already slipped away into the darkness of the house, choosing to keep his own counsel about which secrets to keep and which to reveal. I locked the door one final time, leaving the key under the mat for the realtor. As I walked away, I didn't look back at the house or its basement full of shadows. Some stories don't need an ending to be finished. They just need to be survived.
The text appeared on my phone like a digital slap across the face. I need to tell you something. Don't wait up tonight. 7 words. That's all it took to make my hand shake, my coffee mug clattering against the kitchen counter. I've been married to Tyler long enough to know when something's wrong. 8 years of sharing a life teaches you to read between the lines, to sense the tremors before the earthquake hits. I stared at those words until they blurred, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. What do you say to a message that reeks of goodbye? Is everything okay? I typed, deleted, typed again. Pathetic. Of course nothing was okay. The house felt different suddenly. Too quiet, too empty. Our wedding photos on the wall seemed to mock me. Tyler's perfect smile, his arm around my waist, both of us radiating happiness. What a joke. My phone buzzed again. Margaret knows. She'll explain everything. Margaret. Of course his mother would be involved. She'd never approved of me, always finding subtle ways to remind me that I wasn't good enough for her precious son. Too focused on my writing, not ready for children, not from the right social circle. I called Ben immediately. Something's wrong, I said when he picked up. Tyler's acting strange, and apparently Margaret has all the answers. Heaven! Ben's lawyer voice kicked in, calm and measured. Don't jump to conclusions. Want me to come over? No, I need to handle this myself. The doorbell rang, making me flinch. Through the frosted glass, I could see Margaret's silhouette, straight-backed and proper as always. I opened the door, noting her perfectly pressed clothes, her immaculate makeup. She looked like she was attending a business meeting, not destroying someone's life. Heaven, dear! Her smile didn't reach her eyes. May I come in? I stepped aside, watching her glide into my living room like she owned it. She probably thought she did. I assume Tyler has messaged you? She perched on the edge of our sofa, her designer handbag placed precisely beside her. Cut the act, Margaret. What's going on? She sighed, a sound full of practiced sympathy. Tyler's found someone else. Someone more suitable. Her name is Clara. I introduced them at the charity gala last month. The words hit like bullets, each one finding its mark. Last month. The gala I couldn't attend because I was at my writing workshop, the one Margaret had insisted Tyler attend alone. You planned this. The realization came with crystal clarity. I merely facilitated an inevitable outcome. Margaret's voice turned steel cold. Let's be honest, Heaven. You were never going to give Tyler what he needs, what our family needs. Clara understands the importance of legacy. I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised us both. Legacy? You mean she's young and fertile, unlike your broken daughter-in-law? Don't be crude. Margaret stood, smoothing her skirt. Tyler will be filing for divorce. I suggest you make this easy on everyone and accept it gracefully. Gracefully? My voice shook. Like you gracefully orchestrated my husband's affair? Oh, Heaven. She reached for her bag, looking almost pitying. Did you really think this marriage would last? You were never one of us. Tyler needs someone who can give him children, who understands our world. Clara is perfect for him. I watched her walk to the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors we'd picked out together. Tyler and I, planning for a future that was now turning to ash. Margaret? I called after her. She paused, hand on the doorknob. Tell Tyler something for me? She turned, eyebrow raised. Tell him I hope Clara gives him everything he wants. I smiled, feeling something hard and cold settle in my chest. And tell him I'll see him in court. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving me alone in a house full of memories that suddenly felt like lies. My phone buzzed again. Tyler, probably with more excuses, more explanations. I didn't read it. Instead, I opened my laptop and started typing. Not another chapter of my novel, but something else entirely. Something that would make them all pay. Tyler came home at midnight, reeking of expensive perfume and guilt. I sat in the dark living room, my laptop still open to the document that would destroy him. He flipped on the lights and jumped. Jesus, Heaven, what are you doing sitting in the dark? Waiting for my husband to come home and tell me about Clara. The name felt like poison on my tongue. Or were you planning to let your mother do all your dirty work? He loosened his tie, a nervous gesture I'd once found endearing. So she told you. She did more than tell me. She gloated. I closed my laptop with a snap. How long have you been planning this? It's not what you think. Tyler paced the room, keeping his distance. Clara and I... It just happened. We connected. At the gala, your mother insisted I skip? My laugh sounded hollow. The one she practically pushed you to attend? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mother had nothing to do with... Stop lying. I stood up, my legs steadier than I expected. She orchestrated the whole thing, found the perfect breeding mare for her precious son. Don't be crude. His words echoed his mother's, making my skin crawl. This isn't about having children. No? I moved closer, watching him retreat. Then why did your mother spend 20 minutes explaining how Clara understands the importance of family legacy? Tyler's face hardened. Maybe she has a point. We've been trying for years, Heaven. Years of disappointment, of watching you pour yourself into your writing Instead of what? My voice rose. Instead of being the perfect society wife? Instead of attending your mother's charity functions and playing hostess to her friends? That's not fair. Fair? I grabbed my phone, pulling up the photos I'd found earlier. Was it fair when you and Clara spent Valentine's Day together while I was at my fertility appointment? Was it fair when your mother introduced her to your entire family at Easter, knowing what you were planning? His eyes widened at the photos. You've been spying on me? No, Tyler. Your mother's friends aren't as discreet as she thinks. They've been sending me sympathetic messages all day, complete with evidence of your indiscretions. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I never meant to hurt you. That's the problem, isn't it? I moved toward the stairs. You never meant anything. You just let your mother puppet master our entire marriage. Where are you going? To pack. I paused on the first step. Unless you'd prefer to leave? After all, Clara's probably waiting up for you. Heaven, please. We can talk about this. Like you talked to me before starting an affair? Or like you talked to me before letting your mother plan my replacement? His silence was answer enough. I climbed the stairs, each step feeling like a victory. Behind me, I heard him on the phone. Mother? She knows everything. No, I don't think she'll be reasonable about this. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I opened my laptop again. The document was still there, waiting. I'd titled it, The Perfect Son, a story about a wealthy family's golden boy and his controlling mother. Fiction, of course, with just enough truth to make them squirm. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. How are you holding up? I typed back. Starting chapter 2, it's going to be a bestseller. Below, I could hear Tyler still talking to Margaret, their voices rising. Let them plot. Let them scheme. They thought they were breaking me, but they were just giving me material. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Heaven, this is Clara. We need to talk. I stared at the message, a smile spreading across my face. Perfect. Every story needs an unexpected ally, and Clara might just be mine. After all, she'd seen Margaret's manipulation up close. Maybe it was time she learned what happened to Margaret's last daughter-in-law. I saved my document and started a new message to Clara. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's published in hardcover. I met Clara at a small cafe 3 blocks from my house, far enough from Tyler's usual haunts to avoid detection. She sat in a corner booth, perfectly put together in that effortless way that probably took hours to achieve. Just Margaret's type. Thank you for meeting me, she said, fingers wrapped around an untouched latte. I know this must be difficult. Difficult? I slid into the booth. That's one word for it. Betrayal might be another. Clara flinched. I didn't know about you at first. Margaret told me Tyler was separated, going through a divorce. Of course she did. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the Easter photos. Is that why you're wearing my grandmother's sapphire necklace here? Her hand flew to her throat, though the necklace was long gone. Margaret gave it to me, said it was a family heirloom. Ah, it was. My grandmother gave it to me on my wedding day. I zoomed in on the image. Notice how Margaret's smiling? That's her victory face. Heaven, Save it! I set my phone down. You didn't ask me here to apologize. Clara reached into her designer bag, pulling out a stack of letters. No, I didn't. I asked you here because you need to see these. The letters were expensive stationery, Margaret's flowing script unmistakable. I started reading, each word making my stomach turn. Plans, carefully laid out over months. Instructions for Clara on how to dress, what to say, when to laugh at Tyler's jokes. Details about his schedule, his preferences, his weaknesses. She's been grooming me, Clara's voice cracked, like some kind of replacement part. That's Margaret's specialty, I kept reading. She did the same thing with Tyler's first wife. Clara's head snapped up. First wife? Sarah. I met her eyes. Lasted 11 months before she had a convenient mental breakdown. Margaret had her committed. The divorce was quick, quiet, and very generous. provided Sarah never contacted Tyler again. Oh, God. Clara's latte was definitely cold now. There's more. Margaret. She has expectations. About children. About my role in the family business. Let me guess. She's already planned the nursery? And the prep schools. The college applications. The whole future mapped out before I'm even pregnant. Clara's perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms. I thought I was in control, playing the game. But she's been playing me all along. I gathered the letters, scanning the dates. These go back 8 months, well before the gala. She approached me at a charity auction, said her son needed someone suitable. Clara laughed bitterly. I thought she meant socially. I didn't realize she was casting for a specific role. My phone buzzed. Tyler calling again. I declined it, watching another text pop up. Where are you? Mother's worried. Does Tyler know? I asked Clara. About the letters? Tyler only knows what Margaret tells him. She pulled out one more envelope. This arrived yesterday, my script for the next 6 months, including when to announce the pregnancy. But you're not. No. Clara's smile was sharp. And I won't be. That's why I needed to see you. I'm done being Margaret's puppet, but I need help making sure I don't end up like Sarah. I studied her face, looking for deception. Why should I trust you? Because I have something Margaret wants to keep hidden. Clara tapped the envelope. Something that could ruin more than just her perfect family image. My phone buzzed again. Ben this time. Margaret's looking for you. Be careful. I gathered the letters, mind racing. Clara could be lying, setting another trap, but the fear in her eyes seemed real enough. And if she had proof of Margaret's schemes, meet me tomorrow, I said, standing. Bring whatever evidence you have. And Clara, if you're playing me, remember, I'm not Sarah. I don't break easily. She nodded, understanding the threat. Tomorrow then. And heaven? I really am sorry. I left her there, letters tucked safely in my bag. Outside, the spring air felt electric with possibility. Margaret had made one crucial mistake. She'd chosen a replacement who was just as ambitious as she was. And now that replacement was ready to switch sides. My phone buzzed one more time. Margaret herself. We need to discuss your behavior, dear. Come to dinner tonight. I smiled, typing back. Of course, Mother. I have so much to share. Margaret's dining room felt like a stage set. Crystal glasses catching the chandelier light, silver gleaming on starched linen. Everything arranged just so, a perfect tableau of family power. Tyler sat at his usual place, Clara beside him, both looking anywhere but at me. Heaven, darling! Margaret gestured to my old seat. I'm so glad you could join us. I remained standing, Clara's letters burning a hole in my bag. Interesting seating arrangement. Well, Margaret's smile tightened. We need to discuss the new dynamics. The dynamics where you orchestrated my replacement? I pulled out one of Clara's letters. Or the dynamics where you plan to announce her pregnancy next month? Tyler's head snapped up. What pregnancy? The one your mother scheduled, Clara said quietly. Along with the birth announcement, the christening, and probably the child's first word. Margaret's knife clattered against fine china. Clara, dear, you're obviously confused. Show him the letters, I told Clara. Show him how his mother picked out his new wife like she was casting a play. Clara reached for her bag, but Margaret cut in. That's quite enough. Heaven, you're clearly upset, but this theatrical display. Theatrical? I laughed. Like the performance you arranged at the gala? Or maybe like Sarah's convenient breakdown? The room went silent. Tyler's face drained of color. How do you know about Sarah? I did some digging. I met Margaret's steel gaze. Found some interesting court records. Seems your mother has a pattern. Mother? Tyler turned to Margaret. What is she talking about? Margaret dabbed her lips with a napkin. Ancient history. Your first marriage was a youthful mistake. That you corrected, I cut in, with a carefully planned replacement, just like now. Clara stood suddenly, chair scraping against hardwood. I can't do this anymore. She pulled out her own stack of letters. Tyler, you need to read these. All of them. Margaret rose, authority crackling around her like static. Clara, remember our discussion about your future in this family. My future? Clara's laugh held an edge of hysteria. You mean the one you've scripted down to the minute? The one where I'm just another prop in your perfect family portrait? Tyler grabbed the letters, starting to read. With each page, his hands shook more violently. You planned all of this? He looked at his mother. The gala, the chance meetings, everything? I did what was necessary, Margaret said. Heaven couldn't give you children. Clara can. It's that simple. Simple? I moved closer to Margaret. Like it was simple to have Sarah committed? To convince Tyler she was unstable? Sarah was unstable, Margaret snapped. Just like you're being unstable now. No, Clara interrupted. She's being honest. Something this family should try sometime. Tyler stood, letters crushed in his fist. I need some air. Tyler, wait! Margaret reached for him, but he jerked away. Don't! He looked at each of us in turn. Just don't! The front door slammed behind him, leaving silence in its wake. Well, Margaret smoothed her skirt, composure cracking slightly. I hope you're all satisfied with tonight's drama. Drama? I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. This isn't drama, Margaret. This is evidence. Every letter, every manipulation, every scheme, all documented. Ready to share with the family lawyers, the society papers, everyone. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I gathered my things. Oh, and Clara, Ben's waiting outside if you need a ride. He's quite good at handling delicate legal situations. Clara nodded, collecting her bag. Thank you. Margaret watched us head for the door, her perfect world crumbling around her. Heaven, she called after me. What do you want? I turned back, seeing fear in her eyes for the first time. Want? I want you to remember this moment, Margaret. The moment you realized you don't control everything. The moment your perfect plan fell apart. Outside, Ben's car idled in the driveway. Clara hesitated before getting in. Are you sure about this? She asked. I looked back at Margaret's house, at the shadows moving behind curtained windows. No, but I'm sure about one thing. We're done being pawns in her game. Ben's office felt like a war room, papers spread across his desk, photos and timelines pinned to a corkboard. Clara sat beside me, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours of planning. Sarah's medical records lay open between us, a stark reminder of what Margaret was capable of. She'll come after you both, Ben said, tapping Sarah's file. She's already laying the groundwork. 3 calls today about Heaven's unstable behavior at dinner. Of course she is! I traced the signature on Sarah's commitment papers. History repeating itself. Clara's phone buzzed. Tyler again. She silenced it without looking. He's been texting all night. Wants to meet, to explain. Don't! Ben's voice hardened. Not without witnesses. Margaret's too smart to leave loose ends. A knock at the door made us all jump. Ben's assistant entered, looking worried. Ms. Rivers, there's someone here to see you. Says she's Sarah Mitchell. The room went silent. Clara's face paled. Sarah's here? Send her in, I said before Ben could object. Sarah wasn't what I expected. No broken woman, no tragic victim. She walked in like someone who'd rebuilt herself from scratch, elegant and sharp-edged. So? She surveyed our evidence wall. Margaret's at it again. You knew? Clara asked. I suspected, when I saw the engagement announcement. Sarah picked up her own medical file. Let me guess. She's already started the whisper campaign? Little comments about emotional stability, about handling stress? I nodded, watching her carefully. Why are you here? Because Tyler called me. She sat down, crossing her legs. First time in 7 years. He's finally asking questions about what really happened. And what did happen? Clara leaned forward. Margaret happened. She orchestrated everything. The doctors, the diagnosis, the treatment. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. The papers were signed, the story was set. Ben grabbed a legal pad. Would you testify to that? No. Sarah's smile was razor sharp. I'll do better. I'll give you Margaret's playbook. Every move, every manipulation, documented in detail, including what she's planning next. My manuscript page glowed on my laptop screen, waiting. How do you know what she's planning? Because I've spent 7 years studying her, tracking her patterns, and because she just tried to contact me, offering a very generous payment to confirm your instability. Clara's phone buzzed again. Margaret this time. The text preview made her gasp. Darling, let's discuss your future. Tyler's not the only son with prospects. She's trying to trade me to Tyler's brother, Clara whispered. Like I'm some sort of investment. That's exactly what you are to her. Sarah stood, smoothing her skirt. What we all were. Pieces in her perfect family puzzle. So help us stop her, I said. Better. Sarah pulled out a USB drive. Help me destroy her. Everything's here. Financial records, medical conspiracies, 7 years of evidence. Margaret's not just manipulative, she's criminal. And it's time everyone knew. Ben took the drive, lawyer mode engaged. This could get ugly. It's already ugly, I said, thinking of my manuscript, of the story taking shape. But now we have something Margaret doesn't. What's that? Clara asked. The truth, all of it, and a platform to tell it. I opened my laptop, creating a new folder. The Margaret Chronicles. Sarah watched me type, understanding dawning. A book? Better. A series of exposés, released piece by piece. Let her try to discredit all of us at once. Ben's phone chimed. A message from Tyler. We need to talk, about Mother, about everything. Careful, Sarah warned. Tyler's not as innocent as he seems. No, I agreed, thinking of all the times he must have known, must have seen, must have chosen to ignore. But he's about to learn something important. What's that? Clara asked. I looked at our wall of evidence, at Sarah's strength, at Clara's determination, at my own reflection in the window, no longer broken, but sharp enough to cut. That his mother isn't the only one who knows how to orchestrate a perfect ending. The annual Rivers Family Gala buzzed with whispers and sideways glances. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, watching Margaret hold court near the champagne fountain, Tyler hovering uncertainly at her side. No Clara in sight, smart girl. Are you sure about this? Ben murmured, appearing at my elbow with a USB drive. Once we start, there's no going back. I took the drive, feeling its weight like a loaded gun. Sarah's in position? Ready with the slideshow, just waiting for your signal. Margaret caught my eye across the room, her smile razor sharp. She raised her glass in mock toast, so confident in her control. She hadn't noticed the tech crew setting up the projector, hadn't seen Sarah slip in through the service entrance. Heaven! Tyler's voice behind me. We need to talk. No, I turned to face him. We need to listen. Everyone needs to listen. The lights dimmed, right on cue. Margaret's voice carried across the suddenly quiet room. Heaven, darling, what are you? The first image hit the wall. Margaret's handwritten instructions to Clara, complete with a schedule for the affair. Then, Sarah's medical records, the falsified diagnoses, financial documents showing payments to doctors, to lawyers, to silence anyone who threatened her perfect family facade. What is this? Tyler grabbed my arm. Stop it, now! Why? I jerked away. Afraid everyone will see who you really are? Who she made you? Margaret moved toward the projector, but Sarah stepped out, blocking her path. Hello, Margaret. Remember me? The room erupted in gasps as Sarah's commitment papers appeared on screen, Margaret's signature stark against white paper. This is slander, Margaret announced, but her voice shook. These documents are clearly fabricated. Like you fabricated my mental illness? Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. Like you fabricated Heaven's instability? Clara's sudden appearance in Tyler's life? Tyler, Margaret turned to her son, Handle this. But Tyler stood frozen, watching years of manipulation unspool in high definition. His mother's letters, his father's silence, his own willing blindness, all exposed. Then came the audio. Margaret's voice, crystal clear. Clara, dear, once we handle heaven like we handled Sarah, everything will fall into place. Tyler always does what's best for the family. The room went dead silent. I felt Tyler's stare like a physical weight. You recorded her? He whispered. No. Clara's voice rang out as she emerged from the crowd. I did. Every meeting, every instruction, every threat. Margaret's composure cracked. You ungrateful little… What? Clara moved to stand beside me. Ungrateful for being groomed as a replacement? For being traded between your sons like a stock option? I gave you everything. You gave me a script, Clara spat. Just like you gave Tyler a script. Just like you gave everyone a script. The projector clicked to the final image. Margaret's letter to Sarah's doctors, detailing exactly how to break someone without leaving evidence. Enough! Tyler's voice sounded strange, hollow. Mother, what did you do? Margaret straightened, ice replacing panic. What I had to do, for this family, for you. For me? Tyler laughed, an ugly sound. You destroyed lives for me? I built lives, Margaret snapped. I created perfection. Everything I did was a lie. I stepped forward, facing her directly. Every moment, every relationship, every perfect family photo, all lies. The room spun with shocked faces, whispered conversations, phones recording everything. Margaret's carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. Then she smiled, that same calculating smile I'd seen so many times before. You think this changes anything? You think anyone will believe the ravings of 2 discarded wives and an ambitious little climber? No, I said quietly, but they'll believe this. I held up my phone, showing her the manuscript title, The Margaret Chronicles, a true story of power, manipulation, and justice. The first chapter goes live tonight, Sarah added. Every major publisher's already bidding. Margaret's face went white. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. And in that moment, watching her perfect world shatter, I felt nothing but emptiness. This wasn't victory. This wasn't even revenge. This was just truth, finally breaking free. The aftermath of the gala exploded across social media. Margaret's carefully crafted empire crumbling in real time. I sat in Ben's office, watching the views on my manuscript excerpt climb into the millions, when Tyler walked in unannounced. She's in the hospital, he said, looking haunted. Mother had a breakdown after the gala. Real or staged? Sarah's voice cut through the room as she emerged from Ben's private office. Because we've seen this performance before. Tyler flinched. Sarah, Save it. She tossed a folder onto Ben's desk. Your mother's already trying to spin this. Called 3 journalists claiming heaven, and I conspired to destroy her family out of jealousy. Of course she did. Clara appeared in the doorway, her designer outfit replaced by jeans and a simple blouse. She just called me, offering to double my trust fund if I publicly discredit heaven. Tyler sank into a chair. This has to stop. It will, I said, opening my laptop. When the truth comes out, all of it. The truth? He laughed bitterly. Which version? The one where my mother orchestrated everything? Or the one where I let her? The room went silent. Clara's breath caught. Sarah leaned forward. Say that again, Ben said quietly, recording app open. I knew. Tyler's voice cracked. Not everything, not at first. But I knew what she did to Sarah. I knew she was pushing Clara into my life. I knew, and I did nothing. Why? The word felt like glass in my throat. Because it was easier. Because she always fixed everything, made everything perfect. Because you're exactly like her. Margaret stood in the doorway, looking immaculate despite her supposed breakdown. You understand the importance of family, of legacy. Mother, don't… No, Tyler, it's time for truth, isn't it? She moved into the room like a queen entering court. You want confession? Here's mine. I did everything they accused me of. And more. Because this family needed it. Needed me. We have evidence, Ben warned. Real evidence. Of course you do, Margaret smiled. I made sure of it. The realization hit like ice water. You wanted to be exposed. Clever girl. Margaret sat down, perfectly poised. Do you know what happens to powerful families in scandal? They become legends, dynasties. The river's name will be immortal now. You're insane, Clara whispered. I'm practical. Heaven's book will be a bestseller. Tyler's redemption arc will captivate society. Even you, Clara, will profit from your role as the repentant other woman. She turned to Sarah. And you, my dear, will finally have your vindication. At what cost? Tyler stood, shaking. Our lives? Our choices? Choices? Margaret laughed. You never made choices, Tyler. You followed my script, just like your father, just like everyone. Not anymore. I closed my laptop. Your story ends here. Does it? She raised an eyebrow. Look around, Heaven. Everyone in this room is exactly where I planned, playing their parts perfectly. No, Sarah stepped forward. We're not characters in your story anymore. We're witnesses. To what? To this. I pulled out my phone, showing her the live stream. Thousands watching as she confessed, as she revealed her true self. Margaret's composure cracked just for a moment. You didn't follow your script? Clara moved to stand beside me. That's the thing about manipulation, Margaret. Eventually, people learn to write their own stories. Tyler, Margaret turned to her son, handle this. But Tyler was already walking away. Goodbye, Mother. You'll regret this, she called after him. All of you. No, I said quietly. We won't, because your story isn't ours anymore. It never was. Margaret stood, straightening her jacket. Well played, Heaven. But remember, every story needs a villain, and I'm very good at that role. She walked out, head high, leaving us in silence. Now what? Clara asked. I opened my laptop again, starting a new chapter. Now we tell our own stories, all of them. No scripts, no manipulation, just truth. The cursor blinked, waiting. Behind me, Sarah and Clara exchanged looks. Ben started making calls. And somewhere in the city, Margaret was already planning her next move. But this time, we were ready. This time, we were writing our own endings. The book launch party buzzed with energy, my story displayed in every bookstore window across the city. The Margaret Chronicles had become more than an exposé. It was a movement, inspiring others to break free from their own manipulated lives. I signed another copy, meeting the reader's eyes. To Sarah, she whispered. Not the Sarah from your book, but someone who needed this story. Behind her, Clara chatted with journalists, her own tell-all memoir already generating buzz. She caught my eye and nodded. No more scripts, no more perfect roles to play. Quite a turnout. Ben appeared at my elbow, champagne in hand. Margaret would be proud. Is that supposed to be funny? Actually, it's supposed to be ironic. He handed me an envelope. This came to the office today. Thought you should see it. Inside was a letter. Margaret's elegant handwriting unchanged despite everything. Dear Heaven, you were right. Every story needs a villain. But the best villains, like the best writers, understand their power. You've made me immortal, darling, and for that, I almost forgive you. Margaret. She never changes, does she? I crumpled the letter. Maybe that's not the point, a new voice said. I turned to find Lucas standing there, his daughter Emma clutching his hand. Maybe the point is that you did. I met his eyes, remembering our first meeting at a writing workshop months ago, before the story broke, before he showed me that family could be simple, honest, real. Emma has something for you, he said softly. The little girl held out a drawing, stick figures holding hands, a sun shining above them. It's us, she explained, for your new story. My new story? The happy one, she said, as if it were obvious. After the sad one ends. I took the drawing, feeling its weight in my hands. Through the window, I could see Tyler across the street, staring at the bookstore display. Our eyes met briefly before he turned away, disappearing into the crowd. Heaven! Sarah approached, her therapy practice now flourishing with women escaping their own Margarets. They're ready for the reading. I moved toward the podium, Lucas and Emma finding seats in the front row. The audience settled, waiting for more revelations, more drama, more pain. Instead, I opened to the epilogue. This isn't a story about revenge. It's not even a story about justice. It's a story about the words we use to write our own lives and the courage it takes to start a new page. Clara squeezed my hand as she passed. Ben raised his glass. Sarah smiled, finally free of old ghosts. A movement at the back caught my eye. Margaret, elegant as ever, slipping into the shadows. She'd come to witness her own immortality, just as she'd planned. But this wasn't her story anymore. It never really was. I looked down at Emma's drawing, then back at my audience. All these people writing their own stories, breaking their own chains. Once upon a time, I began, there was a woman who thought love meant control, and a family who forgot how to speak their own truth. The words flowed, not with anger or revenge, but with understanding. Because in the end, Margaret had given me something precious, the power to tell my own story, to choose my own family, to write my own ending. Emma beamed up at me, Lucas's hand resting protectively on her shoulder. This was my new story, messy, imperfect, real. No scripts, no manipulation, no perfect facades. Just truth, in all its complicated beauty. And somewhere in the shadows, Margaret watched her legacy transform into something she never intended, a testament not to control, but to freedom. Not to perfection, but to growth. Not to her story, but to ours. I turned the page, ready to begin again.